Good morning. My name is John Towler, and I'm one of the associate priests in the Avon Valley churches. Today, I want briefly to talk with you about hazelnuts, like this one, and gorillas, seeming strange bedfellows, methinks. I guess we're all familiar with the cries of, "Hey, Daddy, Mummy, Grandad, Grandma, lift me up, I want to see." Those of us who have had any contact with children will know the situation where there is something or someone which the young child cannot see because they're too small or pointing in the wrong direction. The desire is not to miss, but to have a glimpse of whatever is to be seen. Many times I've travelled close to the lovely city of Pisa in Italy on the way to our little hill house in Liguria. And I was aware that I was always excited to get a glimpse of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which you can only see intermittently from the motorway because the trees hide it from view. Glimpses, moments, sometimes intense, sometimes exciting, sometimes fleeting, sometimes long lasting, all moments to be still and be savoured. So hazelnuts, where do they come into the story? Well, in 1342, England experienced the Black Death, which killed hundreds of men, women, and children. At that time, a young woman called Julian, who lived in Norwich, was 7 and lived through this. In her 30s, she was granted many glimpses of God, and it is about one of these that I want to share with you today. First of all, I want you to listen to her own words about the hazelnut. He showed me more a little thing, the size of a hazelnut on the palm of my hand, round like a ball. I looked at it thoughtfully and wondered, what is this? And the answer came, it is all that is made. I marveled that it continued to exist and did not suddenly disintegrate. It was so small. And again my mind supplied the answer. It exists both now and forever because God loves it. In short, she wrote, everything owes its existence to the love of God. In a permanent exhibition at Norwich Cathedral in Norfolk called Vision of God, Mother Julian's revelation of the hazelnut is depicted against a backcloth of the moon landing. Moon landing, if you remember, in the 60s. Julian's picture of the hazelnut is reinforced by the Earth as absorbed, or rather as observed, by the astronauts returning from the moon, a tiny thing, as small as a nut, and yet the ground of all existence. Julian's conviction was that the Earth, so microscopic against the background of the cosmos, was held together because it was created out of love, and that love was its meaning. And from her contemplation of this, Julian leaves us with three things to think about. First of all, she said, simply gazing at the hazelnut in the palm of her hand, she saw in it the joy and mystery of all creation, a creation and shot through with the love of the Creator. Excuse me. A lesson apparent so often to those privileged to live in the countryside, but often hidden from those who live in the urban sprawl. The second thing she wanted us to think about was that the hazelnut, she said, showed her the beauty of every creature, especially humanity. A lesson that the church in our age needs to continue to assert in a world where glamour is so often confused with beauty, and where all need to feel valued against the pressures of depersonalization, injustice, and oppression. To see and treat people in the world around us as intrinsically good because God made us that way is a lesson all peoples in the world badly need to recover. And finally, she said, it follows from God's loving care for us being so great. His desire for their well-being and joy is such that he wants all humanity to know him and so rest in him. To know him is to trust him and requires an element of risk and an openness to many possibilities of life and relationships after the pattern of Christ, who incidentally, way ahead of her time, she called Christ our mother. For it, she says, it is dying we live, it is in giving that we receive. Then to trust involves making myself vulnerable to being hurt, and in the hurt, to know him and rest in him. The hazelnut of Julian. Now something really different. Wonder how many of you have seen that piece of film of David Attenborough laughing and rolling around in the undergrowth of the jungle, playing with the gorillas. When I saw it again at his centenary celebration a few weeks ago on the telly, I found myself transported beyond the jungle and its undergrowth, beyond the gorillas, beyond David Attenborough, to a place of total wonder and awe. There was something about the combination of the whole vista that connected me to what I am calling God. There was a wholeness to it, a completeness, moments which pulled me into a different space, filled with God's presence, not what I was expecting. So finally, then, how many times have you wanted to capture a moment in your experience? Maybe it was a glorious sunset, a landscape view, a child's innocent but deeply meaningful comment, a moment of intimacy between individuals. We are a generation of photographers on our mobile phones, click, in our desire to capture, to capture moments. It's a bit like viewing pictures in an art gallery. We are captured momentarily by a truth. And then we look again, a second time, and we may catch that truth, but we may see something different. which may not be so intense, we are granted a glimpse, a deeply personal experience, an awareness that life is greater than the sum total of what we can see, feel, and touch. For Julian, in her hazelnut, and me with David Attenborough and the gorillas, in both, I believe we penetrate the mystery of life momentarily, to which we take a deep breath and say, maybe like Jared Manley Hopkins, ah, say thank you. Thank you for listening.